Hi everyone, it's Faithful again. I know it's been a while and you may be wondering what's going on with Faithful. Is she okay? Well, I'm okay. It's just life, busy as you know it. We're all busy, but today I wanted to go ahead and talk about something that is really important. I feel like I had to be honest about. I know the last time we talked about weight loss, and my plan was to go about talking next about diabetes, then cardiovascular health, focusing on heart failure, heart attacks, and even cardiomyopathies, which is myocardial disease of the heart, and things like more things like that, which we will talk about in episodes to come, the next episodes down the line. But today I wanted to take a detour because I felt like something I've been dealing with the last couple of months and has been stronger lately. I thought to talk about because I had to even discuss with my husband. I had to confide in a few friends and actually talk to someone who could help me process this so that it would not become detrimental to my health in the long run. I wanted to talk about bias. As a woman and as a African actually, and being a foreign medical graduate in my career, and being petite and very small, there's so much I had to deal with just navigating through my career, from even being an intern to a resident to an attending physician for a couple of years, and then through cardiovascular medicine as a fellow. I have to navigate certain things all the time, and with time I think it became almost like a bias to me. Certain things I had to think in my mind, and how I had to feel like I had to act, I had to behave so that I could be taken seriously. And I think lately, for some reason, I think certain events that had happened made me realize how it was a problem, and just processing it, certain things that even I noticed at work or even in general started to make me worry and started getting concerned and even sad and depressed about why I should feel that way. And so by talking to certain people, it helped me to process this and actually helped me to realize how important it is to talk about this topic of bias. And what is bias? Bias is a prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. It's actually a verb, and it cause to feel or show inclination or prejudice for or against someone or something. And it can be unintentional or intentional. We form unconscious bias based on race, gender, identity, age, sexual orientation, marital status, education, and many other social categories. And honestly, bias can be problematic and very harmful. But you know what? Everyone has biases. That's true, my friend. Everyone does. And, having a bias doesn't make you a bad person. Not every bias is actually negative or hurtful. It's really important to recognize and actually deal with negative biases. Now, biases are actually a cognitive process because our brains are very, very busy. The human brain is constantly processing through all our learned and innate experiences. It pulls all that information together, and quickly we get stereotyped, right? We stereotype things so we can make certain decisions. And some of these decisions can be positive, but others can be very negative and detrimental to our health, especially mental health, which later affects our physical health, cardiovascular health. And even without meaning to, we form our life, our lifestyle, our decisions, our actions, and based on those biases. And even as physicians, if you're a physician listening to this, it can lead to how we actually treat patients, how we diagnose patients, and some people can be inaccurately diagnosed, or some people can experience delays in their diagnosis based on this, and even can lead to stress and worsen certain health conditions or cause various health conditions. Now, I want you to know that there are different reasons we are biased. We are all biased, and this comes from certain things: our personal experiences and our upbringing, our experiences we see of other people, like our parents and our friends, our family members, the culture we live in or we grew up in, and our social norms, the information we process every day through social media, through just TV we watch, through newspapers, our educational system and its values. Sometimes we think about our personal experiences and things we went through growing up. It can actually help people or make people have certain biases. Now, think about, I have an example. Let's say you grew up in an area where you saw women staying at home and taking care of their homes, the kids, the husband, and that's what you used to seeing, and you notice that women are there and they're really happy with that. It doesn't mean that if someone asks you if a woman should be barred from certain positions, you would say yes. You can believe that women should be in power or receive whatever level of education they want on a conscious level. However, if you accepted a new job, say you accepted a new job and your boss is a woman, would you feel uncomfortable with it? Think about it. Would you want to be in a relationship with a woman who have strong professional goals? Or consciously, you might maybe argue that those things wouldn't matter to you, but dig deep and a little deeper and examine how you feel around professional women. Or maybe culturally, you may feel a certain way when you see a woman telling you what to do at the workplace. It's because of the way you were brought up and what you were used to growing up, and that can be a bias. Now, where we live also influences the type of bias we get through social media that we consume. I mean, when we see the news, the channels, the books we read, and the movies we watch, they can actually influence the way we think and how we educate ourselves and how we and view certain people, certain things, or even how we act. Of course, since there are things we have viewed, then we begin believing them. It becomes something we accept, and these experiences through time challenge or affect our lifestyle and the way we act. So, how do we recognize and handle individual biases? And I want to say something. Biases could actually be unintentional, and we have what we call explicit and implicit bias. And explicit bias, honestly, is not actually cause or is hidden bias. We're not aware that we are biased, and it can affect our decisions and judgments. For example, when most people hear of the word kindergarten teacher or nurse, they are more likely to picture a female, right? That's because down deep in, they feel like a nurse is usually a woman, or a kindergarten teacher, for the most part, is usually a woman. Now, this hidden bias, or even an explicit bias, which is a negative attitude that we are fully aware of, we openly express them and we share them with others because they are part of our worldviews. All this actually shape the way we act, who we hire, how we treat patients, as a business owner, how you hire people, as someone who owns anything at all, the way we actually treat people that work for us. And so, how to recognize and handle our individual bias. One of the things you can do, which I actually did to recognize my bias, is to take the implicit association test. It's also called AIT. That's the short form of it. The implicit association test was developed by Harvard in 1998. And this test looks at how strongly a person reacts to concepts in different groups of people. Being aware of your implicit biases is the first step to handling your bias. These biases you may not even intend to have, but they do impact how you live your life. For example, as a physician, if you have an influential person, a doctor, a lawyer, or someone that you know is influential, come to see you, do you tend to pay more attention to them, tend to be more distinct and pay attention to every detail when you're treating them, as compared to someone who maybe comes in, he lives off the street, he always uses drugs, and you treat them in a different way, not even knowing that you're doing it. And somehow it affects the way you treat patients. Or even as a boss, you hire people, when you're looking at resumes, are you paying attention to certain names and how they're called? Is it an African name? Is this a name of an African American or Indian or a Hispanic person? And when you see that, oh wow, that makes you more comfortable with interviewing that person, or because of the way they maybe act, or in the way in the resume, certain things that maybe more relates to what you more inclined to, you tend to hire them or even create that rapport with them. And because of that, sometimes people are hired not based on what they could do or what they could provide for you. Then it becomes probably based on who they are or what they have, or because they are probably really more relatable to you. That's a setting bias. So, and I think even in healthcare, people that have more money tend to be treated differently than people who do not have more money. Now, every decision that you make, whether they are good or bad, is influenced by our biases. And I always say, your decision you make in life is always based on something that we have experienced. So we want to be aware of that and see, does that affect our behavior, and systematically maybe doing some harm to someone in a way that is not acceptable, or may not be maybe detrimental to someone later on that you may not even notice. Now, I think you can change your behavior just like you would with any other by paying attention and to be aware of this behavior that I'm bringing up in question. And introduce yourself to a new piece of information by reading books about certain things to more educate yourself about other things that you may not even know. And basically living your bubble and exploring something new may help you get rid of these biases that, to be honest, long term will not be good for you or for other people that may experience what you may not even know based on the actions or the way you behave towards them. Now, discovering your implicit bias is really worth it, and I challenge us today to expand your mind and increase your knowledge. And as you do so, you begin to make different types of decisions. Look back at some of the decisions you have made that weren't so good. Was it because of your bias? Say you can take a job and you say, well, it was not a good fit for me. What was the reason why you thought it was not a good fit for you? What do you think you would have done if you have been aware of that bias? You might have chosen different things in life at a different time in your life because of that reason. Now, keep in mind that biases do not mean you are racist. It doesn't mean you're sexist. It doesn't mean you're ageist or whatever other is that you have heard before. It is the behavior and actions that follow that determine if you have prejudice. Often, our implicit biases are in direct opposition to what we consciously proclaim to believe. Think about it. Our biases are in direct oppositions most of the time to what we consciously claim to believe. So please, I urge you to take that IAT test. If you have taken it, let me know what you thought about it. And to be honest, it could be an eye-opener for you. As we grow up, many of us receive messages, sometimes subtle and sometimes explicit, that we are less intelligent, less skilled, less kind, or worthy than others, only because of our one characteristic. And this message is about how our fundamental worth is tied to our identity, right? And sometimes creates poor self-image, elevates levels of stress, and other harmful consequences. Now, the LGBTQ community, sometimes they face this isolation and rejection from their family, difficulties in the school systems, in even within their peers. Some racial discrimination in healthcare seen, schooling, the criminal justice system creates the barriers for communities of color, making it harder for them to receive proper medical care, education, and resources. Some older adults and people with disabilities are more likely to experience discrimination at work and in healthcare, both of which can actually cause depression, low self-image, and even a poor health. And what I always say is sometimes these harmful messages we hear become part of our lives, and we act towards others, and the way we act towards others, can be internalized as a bias too. For example, a person of color may have internalized racism, where they begin to believe and accept the stereotypes and beliefs about themselves based on their identity, and hold harmful attitudes about others with the same identity. And I can tell you that for me, I know exactly what this means because I have experienced it, where I feel like because growing up, I saw certain things, I've been acted in a different way when I was in South Africa, or even when I've been here. And somehow with time, I internalize certain things, and unknowingly and not paying attention to it, it has really affected and shaped the way I think, the way I act, and how I feel I need to behave, or how I have to do certain things to be respected. And these biases are very strong negative, have a very strong negative impacts on our personal, mental, and physical health. And research has shown that people who have internalized racism have an increased risk of anxiety and depression and suffer from low self-esteem and long-term have problems in their health. So please, I implore you today to take time to think about these things I'm talking about and see how to unlearn your bias. Now, these biases that you may have learned as a child or growing up with things that have happened in your life or in your family's life, with time, do not help us. So there are some steps to identify and unlearn this bias. One, I'll say check your implicit biases. Take time to think about it and say, what way am I biased? And what do I see when I imagine certain people? Or what do I see when I imagine certain statements being made? What do I see when I talk to people, even at work, when I deal with people that are the same race as me or the same color as me, maybe people that are doctors like me, or I tend to socialize more with people that have my certain caliber or my certain societal background, or even church members. They say, okay, I feel like my church is better than the other church, or my religion is better than the other religion, in certain way that I see other people that are not in my circle. Check your implicit biases. One way to check your biases is to imagine people in different occupations, or like I said, in different other aspects that you are not used to, and show some concern. Once you're aware of that bias, learn how your bias can harm others. And it's very important to practice empathy, thinking about these things. And to be honest, you may not know, but your unidentified bias, your unknown bias can cause hurt to other people. Like I said, sometimes or certain things have happened in different times of my life, or something that had happened a couple of weeks ago that really hurt me, but I know the person did not mean to be biased towards me, but it's something that they may not even know they have. So replace your biases with actively imagining someone you've stereotyped as the opposite of that stereotypes that you may have. And it may help you refrain yourself and retrain your mind to have less implicit bias. And educate yourself. Discrimination bias stems from ignorance. Learn about other cultures, other ethnicities, other abilities, other identities, other races, and it can help you unlearn your bias and learn to appreciate people's differences. And one thing I wanted to talk about before I end was, how do we respond to discrimination and bias? Say you are a victim, or you've been you've noticed that people have a bias towards you and you've been discriminated against. Now, it can be structural, like refusing to rent a home to someone because their race, or refuse because of their race, or because of their ethnicity, or something like that, which is out there and we see it happen all the time. But it could be subtle, where it's just something that is small, microaggressions, or something that people will not even pay attention to. How do you deal with that? Take care of yourself. That's one thing I'll say. How do we do that? Now, when we notice that we are discriminated against, we tend to increase our risk of stress, depression and anxiety, even some suicidal thoughts. Since it's not possible to avoid situations that may happen, finding ways to cope with them, or what we experience, whether it's big or small, can have a big impact on our mental and even our physical health. Practice positive self-talking. If you're getting negative messages about your worth, it helps to focus on your strengths and your core values. Ask yourself, look at me, I came from this family, and look at what I've achieved in my life. That tells me that we are the same. It doesn't matter what people, or I may think in my head that maybe I'm small, or I'm a woman, or I'm black, or I'm Hispanic, or I'm this race or that race. And sometimes in the community, even you may be white, and you're in a situation where there are a lot of other races there, and it makes you to feel small or unidentified with. That can create a bias as well. Practice positive self-talk, and also avoid dwelling on it. It's very hard to shake off discrimination. Dwelling on these negative experiences can actually cause higher levels of stress and anxiety. Now, think about it. What does it help you thinking about all what may have happened to you in the past, or what other people may have experienced? Now, I'm not saying that even we, looking at our history, to not talk about certain things, or to not remember or be educated about those things or those history. Yes, I would definitely encourage or educate my kids, but when I'm doing that, I would tell them and teach them not to dwell on those things, but to find a positive way to forgive, to help others, and to show by the love and compassion regardless of those things that negatively I've been impacted by. Another thing is practice mindfulness and meditation. Being the target of discrimination can stir a lot of negative feelings, but if you are mindful and meditate on this on positive things. It can help you get in touch with your feelings without any judgment. Find a community of people that can help you grow. Like I told you, when I was going through this, I recognized it the last couple of weeks, and I had to find a community, people to talk to about it. A strong support system like your family and friends can help you when you're going through this certain stage or phase of your life. And sometimes you may need to seek mental health professional to talk to about how you're feeling, especially if you deep down dealing with very, very strong emotions related to a bias that you may have been experiencing. And like I said, I will say it again, discrimination can be very damaging even if you haven't been the target of overacts or bias. Regardless of your personal experience, it can be stressful just being a member of a group that is often discriminated against, such as racial minorities or individuals who identify as in a certain group that people do not really associate with. Now, I would say always remember that no matter how big or small, take a moment to identify what they are and work on them, because long term it can become an issue. Focus on your strength, seek support systems that can help you, and help yourself think clearly that you know that no matter what, you are enough. And don't dwell on those things. Don't allow certain negative thoughts to continue to linger in your mind. And I'm really hoping that as we do this, we focus on our health, physical activity, trying to do certain things like yoga, meditation. And when we do all this thing little by little, reading books and things that can help us grow. Our Bible can help us grow. If as a Christian you want to read more of things that will be positive towards you, and as we do that, you will realize how much that can help you even in your career, as a woman, as a man, in your businesses and whatever you engage in, no matter where you are, as a single mom, even as a mother or a father who raising kids by themselves, you can know that no matter where you are, regardless of the bias that people may hold against you, you are the same as others. And as you give yourself positive reinforcements, you can help your physical and mental health. I really hope this has been very helpful to you. Much love. Take care.